Welcome to Anything New. My name is Pete, and as always, I'm here with Matt
What's up?
and Opie.
How's it going, James?
Anything New is the podcast where we talk about anything new we've been using, perusing, or consuming. Episode 3, amazing show lined up, a new Netflix series dedicated to the history of gaming, Microsoft Flight Simulator takes flight, and Call of Duty releases a teaser for its next installment. But first, DC FanDome dropped on Saturday. Matt, what is DC FanDome?
So DC FanDome, basically think of all the think of San Diego Comic-Con and think about all the cool stuff that DC specifically would bring to Comic-Con. So movie stuff, comic book stuff, game stuff, all that stuff. It's all of that stuff that they would normally bring to something like San Diego Comic-Con, but it's virtual. So it was 8 straight hours of programming, and you could only watch it on DCFandom.com. It wasn't on YouTube or anything, and it was 24 hours. So basically, it was 8 hours worth of content. They had all kinds of different panels. Some of them were like a half hour, some were only 5 minutes. It was all kinds of different stuff. But they had a full schedule. They started at 1 o'clock Eastern in the afternoon. They ended at 9 o'clock Eastern, and then that 8 block chunk they repeated twice more to make a full 24-hour event. So it was really cool. I thought it was fantastic. It was even better than the San Diego Comic-Con at home thing that they did. It was literally like being at a convention. You got to see all the cool stuff. They had the actors from all these movies and game developers and comic creators. They had them all there. But it was all virtual. It was done over like video conference and stuff. And
Is this the same size that they normally do, or was it expanded because of COVID?
Well, they've never done this before. They only did it this way because of the COVID stuff.
Oh, okay.
Lockdown. This normally they've never done anything like this before. But they made
How
a
was
whole
it?
event out of it. What's
Was
that?
it well received? People
Yeah,
were
I think so. Yeah, I sat right there on the couch for 8 hours straight and watched all of it. It was amazing.
Oh,
on your birthday.
Yeah, it was my birthday too, so it was like a fantastic birthday present that DC gave just to me. They knew everything I wanted to see, and they gave it to me. So they announced a bunch of stuff, and I made a long list, but we'll just run through it super quick because it's a lot. They started off. They had the cast from the new Wonder Woman 1984 movie. They showed a new trailer for that, which looks pretty cool.
yes.
I'm excited for that. They showed, they revealed and showed a trailer and gameplay from the new game from WB Montreal called Gotham Knights. So WB Montreal made Batman Arkham Origins, which was the third game in the Arkham series. Rocksteady made the other 3 Arkham games. So Gotham Knights looks fantastic. I cannot wait to play that. They showed a little bit from the upcoming Flash movie, but there's not much to show because they're still in pre-production. They haven't filmed anything. But they showed a little bit of concept art, including what his new costume might look like, and they also showed Michael Keaton. It was announced recently that Michael Keaton is coming back as Batman in this Flash movie because it's going to be all about the multiverse. So they did a lot with that, and that was the first. And it was just concept art, but he looked just like he did in '89. So that was super cool.
Is it gonna be? Is it gonna be like a CG young Michael Keaton or?
I don't think
Michael
so.
Keaton?
No,
So the timeline is going to be an old Batman.
as far as I know, yeah.
Is
As
it
far
gonna
as
be
I know,
like Mr. Mom, Michael Keaton?
it's gonna be multiplicity, and there's just a bunch of
Gung
Batman.
Ho?
You're right. I love Gung Ho.
One of the
So
best movies of all time.
Beetlejuice, Michael Keaton.
Oh yeah, you have to say Batman 3 times and he shows up. So they showed some stuff from the new Suicide Squad movie. They didn't show really. They had all the cast there, which is a huge cast. They didn't really show a trailer, but they did show a little like sort of behind the scenes vignette of the movie. So you got to see a little bit of the movie that we hadn't seen before, but just from behind the scenes. And they revealed which actors are playing which characters. So that was really cool. There was a panel about the Justice League, the Snyder Cut, which is coming to HBO Max in 2021, and they revealed the first trailer for the Snyder Cut, which looks fantastic.
It looks good.
Explain to the audience what
watch
exactly the
that.
Snyder Cut is.
So basically, the Justice League movie that came out 2017, directed by Zack Snyder. Well, he had a death, and his daughter passed away during filming, so he had to leave production. And they brought in Joss Whedon to finish it up. And Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder have two completely different styles of filmmaking. And Joss Whedon reshot at least half the movie. So I think that Zack Snyder said in the theatrical cut of Justice League that we got 3 years ago, we only actually ever saw about 40% of the movie that he filmed. They cut so much, and they replace it with Joss Whedon stuff. And when you watch it, it's literally like watching two different movies smashed together. It's bizarre. It's actually probably one of the weirdest things I've seen, because it's just, they're different movies. It's so weird. So the fans rallied together since this. This has been going on for 3 years. There's been this whole movement online about release the Snyder Cut, and a lot of critics, that's never going to happen. You guys need to give it up. And a few months ago, WB said, okay, we're gonna release it on HBO Max in 2021. They put forward another $30 million so that Zack Snyder could finish it. Because he filmed his version of the movie is filmed, but the effects aren't done, the editing isn't done, that kind of stuff.
So in the trailer, that was Darkseid.
Yes, which Darkseid was not in.
He was not in the movie at all.
Not he was mentioned once or twice.
It looked like a totally different movie to
me. Yeah.
Why do you cut Darkseid from a Justice League? Why?
I don't know.
Why do you do that?
I don't know.
I'm not even a comic book guy, but you don't cut Darkseid. It's like somebody coming in and doing the Avengers, and you cut Thanos because he wasn't part of it. It's on that same level.
Right. Yeah. So they didn't film any new scenes for the Snyder Cut because the scenes were already filmed, but they still have to go in and finish the effects. They need to edit it and stuff like that. So it's going to be awesome. And if you think about it, there was some criticisms from some folks online on Saturday saying, I don't know, it looks like the same movie, just with a few extra scenes added. Well, think about this. Justice League in 2017, theatrical cut, 2 hours long. The Snyder Cut's going to be 4 hours long.
Whoa.
That's how much movie they're putting back in. That's how much was cut. And obviously you have to make some cuts. Not all movies can be 4 hours, but that's how much they're putting back into this. And this is the movie. So this movie is the movie that Zack Snyder created.
Wow.
It's largely going to be the same story. I don't even want to say it's going to be the same story, but by the end of the movie, they're going to get to all the same places, but just how they get there is going to be different. So super excited for that.
So the main villain in the other, the guy with the big horns,
Steppenwolf, yeah, and he even looks different.
He looked different.
Yeah.
He did. And then that's what made me think. But, Darkseid's going to have his part, I guess. And then hopefully it'll save, it'll rekindle the franchise a little bit. Because a lot of people, a lot of the lay folk like myself, were kind of disappointed in that movie.
Yeah, well, they had all these grand plans. Zack Snyder clearly had a vision for where he wanted these movies to go, and then Justice League tanked, and they scrapped all of it. And I kind of thought they started.
Did it lose money?
I don't know if it lost money, but it didn't make a lot of money. I think it made money, but it didn't make a lot given what it was. Like, it wasn't $1 billion like Avengers was. And they they kind of scrapped all those plans, and then they went off to make Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, and now they're making this new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. And they sort of said, we're going to go in all these different directions. And I started thinking, what happens if Justice League is Snyder Cut is really awesome? Are they going to come back to that? So we'll have to see. But they finally showed some stuff for that. It's going to be awesome. A little bit of teaser trailer for season 7 of The Flash, which okay. They showed some character reveals and some concept art for Black Adam, which is, featuring The Rock as Black Adam, introducing the Justice Society of America. They haven't started filming that one yet, so there wasn't a whole lot they could show.
I've never heard of Black Adam.
Think about, Shazam. He's like Shazam's arch nemesis. Same sort of powers, but he's not.
Was he in Shazam?
No.
Okay.
No. Same sort of powers, but he's not very nice. They talked a little
kid in an adult's body?
No. He's like thousands of years old, and he's always been in his Black Adam form.
Okay.
So they talked a little bit about season 3 of Titans. They revealed that Jason Todd is going to become the Red Hood. Jason Todd's the second Robin. We saw him in the first 2 seasons, and he's going to be Red Hood in the 3rd season, which is going to be pretty cool. Barbara Gordon's coming in, Scarecrow's coming in, and they're moving to Gotham City, which is going to be fantastic. They talked just a little bit about Aquaman 2. They haven't shot anything, so there wasn't anything to show. They revealed the title for the next Shazam movie called Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which is going to be pretty cool, I guess. They showed a cinematic, what do you call it? Like cinematic trailer for, not cinematic, but they showed like a cinematic trailer for the Suicide Squad.
It was basically a cutscene.
Yeah, like a giant cutscene, for the new Suicide Squad game by Rocksteady, who made the 1st, 2nd, and 4th Arkham games. Brainiac basically looks like he's taken over Metropolis, or maybe even the world, and the Justice League are bad, and the Suicide Squad have to come in and take them out. That game's not coming out till 2022, though, so there wasn't any gameplay to show. And then they capped it all off. The last 30 minutes of DC FanDome was a whole thing about The Batman, which is the new Batman movie featuring Robert Pattinson. It's called The Batman. And we've seen a little glimpse of him in the suit, not a full glimpse. We've seen a couple stills from the movie. They finally showed the first trailer. And Matt Reeves, the director, said, "We have only filmed 25% of the movie because production got shut down because of COVID."
Ooh.
But he said, I couldn't show up to this without bringing something. So they were able to cut together a fantastic trailer, and they haven't even shot the whole thing yet. So the trailer, for anybody who's weary of spoilers like I am, it's safe to watch because there's no spoiler in the trailer because they haven't even finished filming it yet. So I would suggest everybody go watch this. I watched it with my mouth. Literally, I watch it like this, just with my mouth open. Something about it just hit all the right buttons with me, and I'm super jazzed for this movie.
It was the song.
Maybe it's featured Something in the Way by Nirvana, but a little bit of a different arrangement. Now, this movie does take place in Bruce Wayne's 2nd year as Batman, so that's why the suit still looks not quite as sleek. The Batmobile still looks more just like a souped-up muscle car.
That was cool.
So he's young, but we don't have to suffer through Batman's origin again. That's done and gone. This is year 2 of Batman.
Who's Alfred in this one?
Andy Serkis, Gollum in Lord of the Rings.
That'll be good.
Who is the villain?
So I think Riddler is the main villain, but Colin Farrell is actually also playing the Penguin, but like a pre-Penguin,
like a pre-old shrunk Penguin.
Yeah. So he doesn't really.
I don't know the Penguin's origins other than Batman Returns.
Right. So not quite. No, not that. He's quite a bit more human looking, I guess. Yeah. But it's gonna be. That was a fantastic way. That was the last thing they showed in the whole 8 hours of DC FanDome was that trailer, and what a way to go. I've watched it like a dozen times since then. I can't wait for it. So yeah, it was a great day. It was a great way to spend my birthday watching all this cool DC movie, comic, game stuff. If obviously in-person conventions are awesome, but if you can't do that, then this is basically the best way you could possibly do it.
Yeah. And let's talk about that for just a second, too, the in-person convention stuff, because that's the first thing I thought about and thought we might touch on, because we're fans of everything, including Dragon Con conventions, BlizzCon, all that stuff this year, even Comic-Con. I mean, everything was pretty much canceled. You don't know anything of a comic or a con-related event is going to be in person for a while now, right? Do you think this is the way going forward? Do you think it, like, as far as like, just say off the top of my head, technical difficulties or anything like that, there was no hiccups with this? Did it go smoothly? Because we've even watched streaming game or live events, and there was, it was kind of cringy in some moments with your live folks or whatever. Do you think it can get better? Is this, do you think, how we're going to be going to cons?
If we don't get this COVID thing under control, then yes. But if we get a vaccine or whatever, depending on what happens with COVID and lockdowns and pandemics and all that stuff,
Did you have to pay for this?
No.
Nope.
It's all free. So depending on what happens with all that stuff, in-person conventions will come back. I don't think they would do that. I don't think they would put this on if the pandemic gets under control, everything reopens. I don't think they would do this in like San Diego and all that stuff.
Right.
But no technical hiccups. They had a schedule. They stuck to it. I think they were like 2 or 3 minutes off everything on the schedule, but everything was clockwork. I mean, it was amazing. It really was.
Okay.
What's the reception around the web for Robert Pattinson? Is it kind of warming up? I know in the beginning when it was first announced, people were like, "What?"
Yeah, after that trailer, I think more people are open to it. Everybody should have been open to it from the beginning. Everybody, but he's a sparkly vampire. He can't be Batman. Well, he made Twilight movies 10 years ago. He's a fantastic actor. Wouldn't have been my first choice, but let's see what he can do. And yeah, it looks amazing. So I think this trailer changed some minds. I was already sold, but I think this trailer changed some minds. It was great.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, it was great. I hope that we can go to theaters when it's released. But like I said, they haven't even finished filming, so it probably won't even be released until this time next year or later, I would say.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it'll be a while still.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your weekly comics daily weekly.
Yeah.
That you're doing, Matt, where you're on your own personal stream on Twitch.
Yeah, so this podcast, Anything New, is about anything new to us. And so I've been running a second Twitter account since May. It's on Twitter, it's @_Comics Daily. So you got to have the underscore first and then Comics Daily. I read a Marvel comic from the Silver Age every day. Starting with the original, back in the 60s. I've been reading, so for 3 months now, reading a comic every day, tweeting about it, screenshots, picking up on trends or explaining things that are funny or, just weird little intricacies or whatever these books. And then I started thinking, you know what? I want to talk about these more. This was, I'm reading, I've got a week's worth of books at the end of every week. I want to talk about them some. So I decided that I was going to do like a stream podcasty kind of thing. It's not a podcast yet, but I just wanted to get out there and talk about the books that I had read the previous week. So I started it yesterday, actually, on August 23rd. And I went so long that I had to finish it tonight before we recorded this. I just talked about 6 books and just kind of went through each one that I had read from the 16th to the 23rd, and just sort of talked about the story, the history of it a little bit, the art, the weird things, the weird trends in these old books from the 60s and that kind of stuff. It's very niche. I mean, I know probably not a lot of people are going to tune in because you kind of have to be interested in comics. You kind of have to be interested in these old comics from 60 years ago. But that's what I'm into, and I have a blast talking about them. So I'm going to continue to tweet every day, a new comic every day, and then I'm every Sunday gonna get on Twitch and talk about them.
So I totally caught your stream this evening, and I thought it was amazing. I know before we got on, I was asking you if anybody else on the internet does this sort of thing, but it's just the way you present it, because he streams his Marvel app or the Marvel app from his computer, and it does just a really good job of breaking down each scene, each frame, each panel. As he talks about it as it goes through, which is awesome to me because I feel like I'm in kindergarten sitting down and the teacher's holding the book up, and like it's a comic book, and I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool because I don't have to sit here and read. I can just like, kind of zone out.
It's like an audiobook.
But it was pretty nice, Matt. I think it's awesome. I think you should put it up on YouTube like every week. And have a series going on YouTube too, because I think you should keep going with it because I enjoyed just the one episode.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's easy to export from Twitch to YouTube, so I'll probably throw it up on YouTube. And then I do want to grab the audio and just put it out as a podcast at some point. But I figured, let me see how good I am at doing this first, because it's just me talking about comic books. And but I was super nervous yesterday. I almost thought about not doing it because I was so scared, because I was like, I'm just not good at doing this stuff on my own. I'm better in a group setting like this, like we're doing now. But I thought, let's just try it anyway. And I ended up going on for like an hour and a half yesterday, an hour today. and I had a lot of fun, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Well, not to spoil anything, but to tease it. But you and I had talked about doing like a Star Wars series of the Marvel Star Wars comics, and Marvel has done Star Wars comics ever since I guess '77 when
That's
the
right.
movie came out.
Hmm.
So I'm totally into Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars freak. You're a comic freak. So we could talk about that. Was that the same kind of format you were
Yep,
maybe thinking of?
absolutely. Yeah,
I'll
that
be
same
down with
thing,
that.
but
We just
only one issue every week, so it wouldn't be anywhere near as long.
yeah
15,
yeah.
20 minutes or whatever.
So
30
stay tuned
minutes.
for that.
Yeah.
We'll get all our loyal followers to follow us onto that venture as well.
Yeah, so that's on. So we're actually streaming this podcast on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Bumpkins TV, BUMPKINS TV, and that's where Comics Daily Weekly is at as well. I just thought the name Comics Daily is the Twitter account, and then I'm talking about those comics every week. So Comics Daily Weekly. It sounds weird, but that's kind of, I don't know. I just thought it sounded cool. So yeah, that's definitely new to me. That's brand new.
Yeah, well, good luck. I popped in and I love the way you had it set up, like Michael was saying, with the half the screen with the page from the comic. Where do you get those from? Through the app? Is that how you're importing?
So I read them on my iPad on the Marvel Unlimited app, but when I stream it, I use Marvel Unlimited on Marvel.com on the browser because it's easier to capture that from the browser than it is from my iPad.
Do they give you access to is it unlimited? Like unlimited? Like you can get
Pretty
any
much,
comic that they've ever.
for the
So
most
somebody's went
part.
back and digitized all those old.
I think there's like close to 30,000 comics.
Oh my god!
It's Netflix for Marvel Comics, basically.
Nice.
Almost everything up through the last 6 months. So anything that's been released between now and the last 6 months, it's not there. They're on a 6-month lag,
How much
basically.
do you charge for that?
I think I pay like $60 or $70 for a year,
That's not bad.
and it has more than paid for itself. I've probably read literally thousands of comics on that app, and it saved me literal thousands of dollars.
Well, we talked about this the other day on a couple episodes ago. I came across some comics in one of my little getting places, and I was texting Matt, and I just couldn't believe, like, I was paying like $1 or less than $1.25 for these comics, but just the price of comics, Matt, even just on there, like $3 and $4, and if you want to follow, like, I never even considered this until Matt was kind of talking about it. If you wanted to follow Spider-Man, Batman, all the different genres, all the different styles, all the different storylines, whatever. Can you imagine? Like, I mean, comics come out how many times depending on the comic?
Every week. Well, one title is every month, pretty much, and then
So
you got something different every week. Back when I was buying back before DC released DC Universe, I was buying DC comics every week, and I was probably spending $40 every week just on comic books, and
Jeez.
and then I was realizing I'm not reading these all when I get them. I don't remember what happened from month to month. So that's when I said, you know what? I don't have to read these when they come out. I can read them on these apps. I can wait till, like when Netflix gets a series and then you just watch the whole thing. I can just wait for these stories to come out, these whole collected stories to come out, and I'll read them that way.
Cool. That's a good idea.
That's the way, a lot of people want to read it as they come out, and I do too, but it just
Let
works.
me ask you this. When you do that, how do you keep, like, just like Netflix or just like a series, how do you keep from you can't stay off social media. How do you keep from spoiling it?
I've been pretty lucky. I keep up with the news, so I keep up with what events are happening. Like right now in Marvel Comics, there's an event called Empire, and I know sort of the gist of the story, but I don't know the details. So it's pretty easy. I just read tweets. I don't read articles about this stuff.
Yeah.
I just see tweets about these stories, but yeah, I have been pretty okay with spoilers so far.
Okay,
So
that's cool.
yeah.
Because I know you're a big, crazy
I hate spoilers. Yeah.
spoiler freak. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of Netflix, have
Yeah.
you guys checked out the new video game series called High Score?
I have, thanks to you. I had no idea this was even a thing.
I had no clue that it was being released, and then like all of a sudden, just one day, it popped up on there, and it was. And somebody had told me, I was kind of looking around online, that it was. You ever catch those little short stories, like either on YouTube or like I've seen them on Twitter pop up, the Great Big Story, where they do like a little mini short documentary on like a weird subject like Tabasco sauce or something. It'll be called Great Big Story. That's like what it's called. I guess they're the ones who put this all together, and it's awesome. It's 6 parts, so 6 1-hour episodes. Actually, it might be like 45 minutes. I think some of them are, but but starts off like early, like Space Invaders, Pac-Man, kind of goes all the way up through to kind of like, not modern day game. Well, like, kind of Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Doom kind of goes up into episode 5 and 6, but and everything in between. I mean, I thought they did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, it made me feel like I think when you first told us about it, you said it's basically like the toys that made us or the movies that made us, like
Right.
that those guys.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
it feels like those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that stuff. So this was right up my alley. I've only watched the first 3 episodes. There's 6 or 4.
They
6.
speaking of the toys that made us and the movies that made us, those guys that edit and narrate those do really good jobs of, I guess you could call it cutscenes, but following a character or you're interviewing somebody, it's just not them with a camera. They're telling the story, and then they have an animation like this
Yeah.
being video game based. When the guy was talking about, say, I've been through episode 2, when he was talking about working at Nintendo Power Hotline, which in and of itself, like, just really hit home because I totally got in trouble so many times for calling long distance to Nintendo Power Hotline. I don't know if you guys ever called it, but I called it a couple
I
of
never
times
did. I never
when
called
it came out. Me and some neighbor kids were so into it that we played Nintendo Power Hotline. Like, some of the kids would set up at their house and we would call their number and we would try to see if they could get us, like, we were stuck at a point, and we would try to see if
Oh,
we could
wow.
explain to them like
That's
what we were
awesome.
stuck at, and they would pretend they were the Nintendo Power Hotline. And of course,
The game counselors.
yeah, and it's so, yeah, the game counselors, and it's just so crazy because I called it for some like crazy. I think I was playing like Skater Die 2,
Oh, I love that.
and so I was stuck somewhere on that. Just some stupid games that I was stuck on, and yeah, I totally, because back in the day, I mean, you call long distance, the phone bill shows up, and it's not the same
my
thing. You're in trouble. But yeah, it was.
Scam. Can you believe that all those big phone bills that we paid for all those years? Now it's just totally free.
Can we talk about,
Not
just for a
free,
half
but-
second, about how episode 2? So that was the one you're talking about with the Nintendo Power, with the Nintendo Hotline, the Nintendo Championship, all that. Can we just talk about how that episode is a prequel for The Wizard with Fred
Oh, wow.
Savage?
Yes.
Yeah.
That I loved watching that because I felt like I was watching the B story. Like, I felt like Fred Savage and his brother and the other girl were trying to get to California while this stuff is happening. It was fantastic.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that was so, and in the collector world, those cartridges that they use for those competitions are the rarest and
Oh,
most
yeah.
sought after.
Super crazy.
I recently watched, I don't know if anybody knows, but Metal Jesus Rocks is a YouTuber, and he's a game collector extraordinaire, and he lives in the Seattle area, and he's got a game collection. But I recently went back and watched some older episodes. I don't know if you guys ever seen this, but is her name Kelsey that works at the Pink Gorilla?
Yeah, Kelsey.
Yes. So she found on Craigslist a huge Pikachu, that big Pikachu, and she went to this guy's house who collected, and to get the Pikachu, she was going to buy it. And Metal Jesus went along with her. He recorded it all, but this guy had this crazy collection, and he actually had one of the NESs that had what looked like an Ethernet jack in the back, but I know we didn't have Ethernet then.
Right.
But it was a crazy modded type of, I guess, maybe to run the signal up to the big screens but he believes it was played the actual NES, not just the cartridge. He had the cartridge too, was played at that competition. So
That's crazy.
that was crazy. And what it was really funny, one of the things I didn't think about, he was talking about beating Mario. And I guess one of the goals to move on to the next game was to get so many coins, and he actually found where you could die and then start over and get the coins. That's crazy that he figured that out.
Hacks. That's how we did hacks back in 1990, kids.
Yep.
And we don't give any spoilers away for episode 2, but there was a cool little story where they talk about the origin of Kirby, the little Nintendo.
Yeah, that was neat too.
Cool.
Little Nintendo guy Kirby, the inspiration for that. So we'll let you kind of watch that and see.
Speaking of hacks, did you guys ever get the Hammer Brothers 30 Men hack? You remember?
No.
I don't remember that. What's that?
You don't remember World 3-3? I think it was World 3-3, but the first the first time you remember the Hammer Brothers guys,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the Hammers.
Yeah.
There was a level with steps, and they'd come down the steps,
Yeah.
and you were able to hit this turtle like over
Oh
and
yeah.
over and over and over and over and over and over.
One-ups.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And get the 1-ups.
Yeah.
Like you could get up to 30 on that.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
remember
remember
that.
It was the Hammer Brothers level. It wasn't actually the
Right,
Hammer
right,
Brothers.
right. Yeah, you
Okay.
hit the turtle shell. Yeah.
Dude, the Hammer Brothers used to be just intimidating.
Ooh,
when
I
you
hated
go
them.
in.
They were.
Okay, we're going down a rabbit hole.
I thought about going back. I completed 1 and 3, but I never completed 2.
Really?
So I was thinking about going back.
Oh, never completed 2 either.
I remember like those upper levels, like with the quicksand and stuff, and like
Yes.
it's like brutal.
Two was just this is for another podcast, but 2 was just another world. I mean, just totally just like it was so
Well, there's a whole YouTube video or several whole YouTube videos about the history of Mario Brothers 2 and how the Mario Brothers 2 we got wasn't the real Mario Brothers 2, and it was actually another game that was reskinned with Mario stuff. So yeah, of course it was different. It was just
They just took out the other dude and threw Mario.
yeah, basically that's why
Mario
it's so
2.
wildly different. Yeah,
We beat the deadline.
yeah.
We're the hero. There's Mario 2.
But yeah, so if you guys are into the history of video games, this Netflix series called High Score is fantastic. It's awesome. I love going back and just like nostalgia bombing myself, and it's I love it.
Yeah, I think we all would highly recommend it.
Absolutely.
I wanted to hop over and talk about what I've been playing this week.
Yeah.
Video game wise, on Steam. So I found it on Steam, but I've been playing it on Xbox Game Pass for free. So if you have Game Pass, Ultimate or whatever, and you can play the Microsoft games on your PC. A game called Deliver Us the Moon. And so when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm up for a little sci-fi shooter, but it actually wasn't a shooter. Great storyline. It would make an incredible movie. Pretty much the premise is, in the kind of like the near future, probably I think it was like about 50 years from now, we kind of start running out of natural resources, and they find a mineral on the moon, which like solves all the world's energy problems. So they create like kind of like this space elevator to the moon and start harvesting this mineral, and it's kind of like a worldwide project. So for years, like everything's great, right? And then all of a sudden one day, just like everything from the moon stops. Like no production, no energy. The Earth has become so reliant on this mineral from the moon, it stops coming, and like everybody starts freaking out. Like, okay, no communication. It's just like everything is just dead. So of course they send you up to the moon to figure out what happened. And it's actually more of like a atmospheric thriller puzzle game than it is like a shooter.
Okay.
So it's like you kind of cruise around, super kind of spooky, scary, and you're kind of, once you get to the moon, you kind of start to figure out exactly what happened, and and just try and figure out what's going on. And they first, they're sent there to kind of get everything hooked back up and send it back to Earth, but then it kind of just takes a different turn. But it's really good. It's a shorter game. You're not going to be, it's not like Ghost of Tsushima where you're going to be soaking in 50, 60, 70 hours with a bunch of side quests. It's kind of open worldy, but kind of linear at the same time, because you kind of know what you got to do, and there's puzzles and stuff like that. But Deliver Us the Moon, I'm playing it on Game Pass. It's on there now, so if you have that, you can play it for free. It's good. I mean, it's you're not blasting aliens and stuff, but it's
you don't always have to be doing that.
No,
great games don't always have to have that.
You turn out the lights, put your headphones in. It's got awesome sound. It's got, I didn't realize it at first, but until I saw the little thing pop up, they said it was has like the NVIDIA ray tracing. So if you have a ray tracing video card, like cool shadows on the moon and stuff like that. I mean, whatever.
That's cool.
But
Or
there's one really cool thing though. I want to say, I've never played a game like this where gravity is so involved.
Oh
Like
wow.
everything, like you're like in your spacesuit, right? And like you're in like some of these areas where there's, you're in 0 G, and they play like all the puzzles kind of play into that, like where you'll have to kind of like rotate stuff, and it's just really cool. It's a different type game, but I recommend it if you're into kind of puzzles and
Oh, I
that
love
kind of stuff.
puzzles. Awesome. Yeah, that'll well with the ray tracing. Even if you don't have a graphics card, fancy one, when the Series X comes out, it'll do the ray tracing, and you can get it on Game Pass.
I didn't even have they even really talked about that much with ray tracing with the Series X. It's gonna
Yeah, both of them, both.
4K ray tracing, 60 frames per second.
Supposedly, that's what they're advertising. I'm not saying that that's definitely going to do it, but that's
Sure.
what they're advertising for sure.
Well, they always act like it will, and then it always does like some sort of like faux 4K.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
No, these are supposed to be pretty high end, so we'll see.
the other game I want to hit on real quick is Microsoft Flight Simulator. Not sure how nerdy you guys are, but I've played this game. It's just for years, just and I hadn't seen one. Really, they kind of started talking about it about a year ago when maybe like the last E3. I kind of saw a little teaser for it, and I was like, What is this?" But anyway, they've mapped pretty much the entire world. So I mean, if you guys know, if you're listening to this, you probably know a little bit about video games. So I won't go too much into the tech because everybody's been talking about it. But it's pretty awesome. Like the graphics are insane. Like I have a pretty beefy computer,
Yeah.
2080. Only 16 gigs of RAM, but and like an i7 that's probably could use an upgrade. But I mean, I'm playing it on high settings and not ultimate. Uh, but
Does it run? Have you tried Ultimate? Does it or Ultra? Does it work well?
ultra. No, I haven't even tried it
Okay.
because the bottleneck is the processing of all the information
Right.
on the ground. You know what I mean? Because like it's loading real life data. So it's like if you load into like a small airfield in Kansas, then it runs great. If you load into JFK Airport in New York City, it bogs it down quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Okay.
it's just, but the higher you go, then it starts to look a little better because everything gets smaller on the screen. But I mean, it still runs pretty good. I would say I'm like in like that 50 to 60 range,
Okay.
but when you're used to 150,
Well.
then but first world problems, right? I mean,
Right. So, Flight Simulator, I guess I just don't get it
yeah,
because you're not really doing it. You're just like flying around. Now, I would understand if it, and I don't know if you can make it as technical or not technical as you want. Like,
yeah,
I've seen some people playing it with actual flight sticks
oh yeah,
and throttles and all this stuff. So I don't know if do you have the option of making it super technical with super complicated controls
yeah,
or just with a controller?
yeah. So that was kind of one of the knocks on it previously, was that it was too complicated just for the average user.
Okay.
If you had your keyboard, you had to like pull out your little binding sheets and say, okay, release emergency brake is H, flaps up is U, this is K. What I mean? It was just like really complicated. So they've kind of dumbed it down to where you can use an actual Microsoft Xbox One controller and do everything. But like it's really meant to be played with like the flight stick,
Okay.
like the yoke and flight stick and pedals even. Like but yeah,
Yeah.
so you're in the cockpit and you can they have little classes, like tutorial classes, like to fly the Cessna. And I mean you you can move around with your mouse and click and turn any dial, push any button that's in the cockpit,
Okay.
like hover over it. I mean, so you can turn up the difficulty. And I've watched some videos where like actual 737 pilots are flying some of these planes, and they're like, everything, it's like so accurate. Some of the little things, just like the view, they say like the view's a little off, but as far as like the controls and the actual layout in the cockpit. But yeah, I get what you're saying. You're not going up there and like dogfighting and stuff.
Right,
But they
which not every game has to have that
improved.
either, and I understand I'm not the audience for this. It's just not for me. But
Yeah,
and I know some people love it. I just sometimes have a hard time seeing like, well, it might be cool for a minute, but then if you're going to
yeah,
play it for hours, I would just be sitting here with a controller just flying. I mean,
yeah. Well, they have like challenges, flight challenges, like
okay,
where because there's a lot of airports that are like super challenging in real life to fly and land on, so they'll give you like a small airstrip in Barbados where you have to really be on your game, and like so you'll load in and you're just already on your like descent and to that airport, and then you get a score based on how well you do. So that's kind of fun, and like
okay,
there's like leaderboards. It's also fun just to kind of like hop on, like, because it is so accurately detailed. Like I hopped in our little regional Springboro, Ohio airport, and like the gas station that's on the corner is there. The like CVS drugstores, right? I mean, every building, and it won't really look like a CVS, but it'll, they draw it just from like the map data from like
hmm
the Microsoft. I think that's like Bing, their map technology,
okay.
which I don't even know if Bing's around anymore. Is
I
it?
think it is, isn't it?
Is it?
I don't know.
But anyway, I like it. It's it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's relaxing and and pretty fun. I liked it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it exists, and I know a lot of people are excited to get a new one. It's not for me, but I'm glad that the people who are into that stuff got a new version because there's a lot of people out there that love it. There's the Twitch guys who did a real time flight from from here to Japan or something, and it looked like they had a whole cockpit set up, and
I think they went from like LA to Dubai, I think is where they
okay,
went.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
It
So
was
that would
like
be
a
pretty cool.
16-hour flight, and they
Yeah,
trimmed the whole thing,
yeah,
and they crashed at the end. So
Oh,
I didn't watch the stream, but I went back and watched after they wrapped it up and kind of fast forwarded to towards the end, because landing one of those jumbo jets is really hard, and because it's like a total different. You know how like a good racing game,
sure,
like you
yeah,
can tell the difference in like
yeah.
a Ford Escape, and a Ferrari.
you're right.
Like you can feel the difference going around curves and like the braking and stuff. That's the same way with this game. Like just flying it, like the little planes feel so nimble, and those big ones they just don't want to move. And like if you make a mistake in the air, it's like it's so hard to compensate for it. But yeah, they landed, and then they got off the runway and ran into a building there. So 16-hour flight, and then they still
And
crashed.
then for nothing. Oh well.
Yeah, but you don't have to, like, if you pick a flight, like say you want to go from like Europe, somewhere in Tennessee, and like fly to New York, you can get off the ground, like do all the fun stuff, taking off, doing like the taxi and stuff, take off, and then you can hit the little like time skip button, and it'll once it goes into autopilot, you can time skip all the way to like your initial descent, and then do the whole landing. So that kind of stuff is fun. I
Okay.
like it.
Okay. Well,
Sounds a little nerdy, but I
no, I
mean,
don't. I don't think so. Like I said, it's not for me, but I can understand how people would be into that for
Oh
sure.
and
yeah.
it's on Game Pass.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
So, it's if you have Game Pass, that's two games that I've recommended this week, and you can play for free if you're a member of Game Pass
Game
Ultimate.
Pass just gets better and better all the time, man.
It
They
does.
they did a really good job. I mean, we always go back and forth about like the different consoles, but yeah, Game Pass, they've killed it. It's
Yeah.
been, I mean, way better. Like the Nintendo Online, that's like, don't get me started. But
Yeah.
anyway, one other video game I think that we need to hit on this week was the teaser. I mean, this is for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. They released a
Yeah.
teaser for that. We're not huge Call of Duty fans, but we know that it's definitely big.
Yeah.
But I thought the teaser was a little weak. I think it was just they kind of just it was more of just an game announcement.
Yeah, it was.
They didn't. when I say teaser, they didn't really show any sort of gameplay. It was more just to kind of release the era I think that the game was going to be in. People always wonder, was this one going to
Right.
be
Well, it's based around
Vietnam or
it's based around the Cold War, so it's a lot of propaganda videos.
yeah,
Just like you got a guy, I guess he's a Soviet guy, talking kind of about you know what it takes to what you're going to do during a Cold War type of thing, and that's Black Ops for you, I guess. They're into that era because they've had. I've not really played the campaigns on the other Black Opses. I think my son's played them all, which they're kind of they're kind of rough from what I've seen. But Black Ops is that anything goes type of covert ops type of gameplay. And I'm sure there's going to be multiplayer. Everybody wants to play Call of Duty for the multiplayer, so
Right.
who knows how strong the story will be.
So they didn't even really, because I haven't watched this. This is the only thing on this these notes that I don't know. They didn't tell us what kind of game it. I mean, obviously we know what kind of game, but they didn't tell us like the background because the Cold War isn't. The Cold War isn't really combat heavy. Like what are you gonna do? Spy? The whole game is just like guys sitting in a computer spying on the other side. I mean,
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why it falls into the Black Ops type of thing. It's behind the scenes. It's covert. It's It's not a big wide open war. It's what your spies, secrecy, hacking, that sort of thing. So who knows what it'll be like. But
yeah.
like I said again, Call of Duty's all about the multiplayer. So who know and what the campaign's going to look like.
Right.
I thought they did a pretty good job with Warzone. I mean, they were kind of late to the battle royale market, but
Yeah.
I mean, we played it for a while, and had some fun with it, and my 13-year-old loves it. So, I mean, it just seemed like the Cold War just an odd one, but I
Right.
mean, I'm sure they'll probably make it kind of cool.
They'll figure out something. They'll figure some way to make to Call of Duty eyes it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mark Hoppus.
Yes. Wait.
So he's been watching us the whole stream.
Yeah, he's peering over your shoulder.
So if you guys can't see us, if you're just listening to the audio podcast, Opie has some like life-size cardboard cutouts of Blink 182 behind him, and Mark has been staring at me the whole time.
Yeah, everywhere I move, he's following me with his eyes. I can't get away from him.
This is my corner of my basement that I'm going to eventually. It's a man cave kind of slash game room kind of under construction, and my basement's unfinished. So we've been painting the walls, and hopefully one day we'll be able to put up drywall, that sort of thing. But I totally had these like moving blankets kind of hung up over the walls to kind of give it some color and kind of deaden the sound a little bit, and so you don't look at bare concrete. And I told Matt, I was like, Matt, are we streaming this? He's like, yeah. I was like, crap, it looks like I'm in a Saw movie down here or something. So like I had to hang.
What are all those plastic sheets behind you? That's weird.
Yeah. that's about it. So I had to hang up a flag. There's actually a water pipe behind the flag, and where the water comes in the house, and then I had a Blink 182 stand up just to kind of break it up a little bit. But this side of the basement's white where I stopped painting, and this side is like gray for like bare concrete. So
it's a nice contrast.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mark Hoppus is doing, and this was a total out of the blue. I'm usually dialed in to what he's doing. Or what Blink is doing, because I'm a huge Blink fan.
And just real quick, in case you guys don't know, Mark Hoppus is the bassist and one of the founders of Blink 182.
Right. So. Sorry, maybe skipped over that a little bit, but I'm a huge Blink 182 fan, and this just popped up on his Instagram, and he's ever since Blink. The original members of Blink broke up, where Tom DeLonge went off and did his own thing, and then Matt Skiba took his place. I mean, Blink's still putting out music as Blink 182, but Mark has always had solo projects, which Simple Creatures is one of his solo projects. Plus, he streams on Twitch kind of every now and then. He starts streaming with his son. But this is another venture he's into where on Apple Music, and I guess how new is the Apple Music platform? I mean, everybody in the world knows that iTunes has been around forever, but I guess Apple Music is like Apple's Spotify.
Basically,
It's more of a streaming service. Instead of buying the music, you're just going to stream the music like a
it's like
Spotify.
Spotify Premium. You can
Yeah.
stream music or you can download it, but you have to have a subscription.
But yeah, basically on the description part, I could not find anywhere to download this or listen to it other than just buying. Yeah, just having an iTunes account you couldn't listen to it. You had to subscribe. But luckily they had a free trial. So I'm going to try it out for a month, and I did it specifically. If they wanted people to subscribe, they got me to subscribe because I'll pretty much listen to anything that he puts out once or twice. But um, I was always a fan of his podcast. He did a podcast for a while called "Hi, My Name Is Mark," and it was
It was
hilarious.
awesome. I loved it.
And he quit doing that, and that was years ago, like when podcasts were kind of in their infancy. Wouldn't you say, Matt? That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it
That he
was. Yeah.
doing that,
Mhm.
and so I thought this was another podcast, but it kind of is.
It kind of is. It's podcasty, but it's on the. It's not part of Apple Podcasts. It's in the radio portion of Apple Music. So they
Yes.
brand it as a radio show, but I think
Yes.
it's only once a week, right? And it's like 2 hours long. So
Correct.
it's basically a podcast.
But I come from the era of MTV. I come from the era of turning on the radio and you had to listen to the radio. You couldn't skip around to your favorite songs. You had to listen to what the DJs had to say. So it's kind of a throwback to that. I kind of was thinking like the old 120 minutes when Matt Pinfield on MTV would kind of describe little bits and pieces about every band you were going to see, and he always had these good tidbits of information of how bands were related to this guy was played with this band, blah blah blah, this stuff. So when I turned this on, Mark was doing that. He wasn't long-winded about it. His music selection was really great. I loved all the music. He told stories. He went from everything from Nine Inch Nails to popular like Lit. He played Blink. His first song was Blink, was Rock Show. And he kind of told, it was a funny story. I didn't even know this, but when Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, Blink's one, two, third, four, it was right after Enema State. So it was their fourth album came out. It was a more, they had went away from that. They tried to get away from that
Fifth,
pop.
wasn't it? They had the two, and then
Well, they had Buddha, they had Cheshire Cat,
yeah, right. They had Buddha, Cheshire
Cat,
Cat, then Dude Ranch,
Dude
then
Ranch,
Intimate State,
and then
and
Fifth.
then
So a lot of people don't count Buddha. I don't know how nationally he's doing.
Well, actually, see what happened.
But anyway, so everyone knew that it's more of a serious album than Enema State. But he tells a story about how they all recorded most of the album, and the producer was like, where's the
fun summer song?
Where's the fun summer song?
Yeah,
Right. So they were all like totally pissed off at the producer after they left, and he went home and he wrote, here's a fun song. I'm going to the rock show in the summertime, blah blah blah, and I met this girl, blah blah blah. That's how rock show came up. But I absolutely
and he said that Tom wrote "First Date" at the same time, which was the second single.
Yeah, and it was summery.
Yeah, it was party summer too.
Yeah, and it was they were both awesome. But I love, just going back. The music selection was great. He played a Nine Inch Nails song, told about how he went to see Nine Inch Nails and actually sit on the stage at the feet of Trent Reznor. At the time, didn't have any earplugs in or anything. It was like a beat down warehouse. Apparently, he had a buddy who was into Nine Inch Nails before they even hit the scene, and they went to see him. But there's all kinds of great stories. His delivery is great. He wasn't long-winded about anything. The music selection was great. The only thing I don't like is the app. I don't like Apple Music. I don't like.
It's not great. Yeah.
I don't like the way it distributes it. I've got an Android. I'm an Android user. It's got like a widget, like a player that I can like pause. But a lot of the other podcasty apps or music apps always like to hold your place, but it seems like as far as Apple Music goes, it's like I'll listen to it, I'll get halfway through it, have to pause and do something else, and I'll come back and have to start all over again. A lot of that stuff is kind of
whoops, accidentally started it. My bad.
But yeah, so I'm going to definitely listen to it as long as my subscription is free. Hopefully, I can work out something to keep listening to it. I was hoping they would put it out on like his on YouTube, or someone would record it or something like that, so I could probably listen to it without having a subscription. But I'll figure something out. But
Well, another thing it's not great is that, like, I'm looking at it on my phone right now. There's not even a way to quote unquote subscribe to it. So
Right.
like every time I go back to it, if I listen to some of it on my phone and then listen to a song, another song on Apple Music, and then I want to come back to this, like you said, it doesn't hold my place. So it's like it starts over again, and
yeah.
the only way I get to it is like it's on my recently played, but I can't like subscribe or save or go to my stations or anything. Like you just have to like search for it and hope that it doesn't disappear.
Right.
I guess you can create state. I don't know. It's not great. One thing that I want to make sure we point out too is the type of music he plays. He said it's like the last 30 years worth of rock, alternative, and punk. You know, basically anything from like early 90s to now, which probably as you get closer to now, there's going to be less of that stuff. But yeah, it's like somebody at Apple Music looked into my brain, figured out all the music that I liked from my formative years in the 90s, and they got my favorite musician from my favorite band to DJ it all. It's really good. The music's really good. A lot of it I haven't heard. And it's funny because he says that every artist he plays, he has to tie it back to him some way.
Oh, wow.
He's like, everything I play, I have to tie it back to me somehow. So, and most of it is just him seeing these bands in concert or something like that. But it's really fun. I'm glad he told me about it because I didn't know either.
A funny thing he said was he played Lit's My Own Worst Enemy, which is a pretty popular song. It's probably their most popular song. And Lit's, I guess, more of a rock band. I wouldn't consider them really. They're more mainstream rock, would you say?
Yeah. Well, they were.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But the lead singer recorded that song naked, he said, on the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was I don't know how Mark Hoppus knew that, but okay.
It was funny. He said, yeah, this guy, he likes to run around naked and record music. He's like, and who am I to say anything about that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So yeah, it's really, I like it a lot. I've been listening to it, little bits and pieces here and there every day. I thought it was like an everyday thing, but it's basically a podcast. It comes out every week.
Yeah.
So it's basically like, after school radio with Mark Hoppus, and then anything new. Like those two, are pretty much the same thing, you know.
Yeah. I'm glad we launched before.
If you can only listen to one podcast,
right?
Listen to After School Radio. If you can listen to two, listen to Anything New podcast.
That's right. We'll flip those. Yeah.
Remember that? Well, that was on Austin Powers. Do you remember that? When Austin Powers came out, and it was when they were re-releasing Star Wars. And
right.
Our commercial was like, if you can only see one movie this summer, see Star Wars. If you can see two movies, see Austin Powers.
Then that would be accurate for us, yes.
Yeah. I always thought that was funny. But anyway, I think that's going to about wrap it up. Let's hit on our social media. Michael, our Gmail is up and running, right?
Gmail's up and running. Twitter at Anything Newcast. We're posted on there. Instagram, Anything New Podcast. We're posting on there. Right now, we're just kind of putting the shows up after they're posted. I'm hoping to tease a little bit of the episodes as it goes along. All three of us kind of like to feed our information into a doc here, and I like to give the people a little bit of something to look forward to. Not really spoiling anything because I'm not going to tell you what we're going to talk about or what we're not going to talk about, but I'm going to try to start putting that out every week, and I think we have a Facebook page too that you can go on and like us there.
Just anything new podcast on Facebook. Join that, and we have I have some Steam video game codes to give away. So send us an email, anythingnewpodcast@gmail.com, and just say Steam game key in the subject, and we'll select one. Shoot, I might select two because I got a bunch of games and some good ones too. So and we can reveal what games we're giving away maybe next week if anybody wants that. Anything new podcast@gmail.com. Matt, you got anything before we go?
No, just going back to my comic show. I appreciate everybody who dropped in the last couple nights of me doing that because I was super nervous and it's super niche, I know, but I had so much fun, and I just wanted to thank everybody who dropped in and listen to me talk about comics for a bit. It was awesome. I appreciate it.
You're the man. And if you're listening to us on a app, we recently got on Spotify. You can listen to us on Spotify's podcast if that's a preferred app of yours. Of course, we're anything that streams a podcast, iTunes, Pocket Cast, and we're on Pocket Beam.
Podbean.
Is that what it?
Podbean is the host. Yeah.
Podbean.
Podbean. Yeah, and I think that you can even say the word, and she'll play us now too. But I haven't actually tried it yet. But I submitted it for approval. But I think that it takes like a week or so. So we'll see.
Okay.
Opie, you got anything before we go?
That's it. Everybody be safe out there, and look forward to talking to you guys next week.
Yep.
All right, we'll catch you guys next week for episode 4.
That's all right. See you guys.
All right. See ya.